Well, welcome everyone. I'm Pastor Jet. Welcome back to Questions and Responses. I'm here with Pastor John and Pastor Tim, and we've had a great time taking the questions that you've submitted and doing a little study, and it's fun to discuss and to just bounce ideas around and to see where God leads us. Today, we want to invite you to continue to send in your questions to us, and we'd love to hear from you. If you've got questions that you'd like us to address, you can text those to 833-440-0137, and we'll take a look at those, and we'd love to get with you. Today, Pastor Tim, what's our question for this day?
Yeah, Jet, there's a good question here. It says, does God make mistakes? And he's referencing Genesis 6:6. Had a man tell me he would not trust in God that makes mistakes and use this verse. Also would like insight on verses 2-4 of chapter 6. So I thought to kind of catch everybody up to speed, I'm going to go ahead and read Genesis 6:1-6, the first 6 verses, and then John will jump in here as well. So basically, it says, when men began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, my spirit will not contend with man forever, for he is mortal. His days will be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of men and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. Verse 5, the Lord saw how great man's wickedness on the earth had become, and that every inclination of his thoughts, of the thoughts of his heart, was only evil all the time. Then verse 6 says this, the Lord was grieved that he made man on earth, and his heart was filled with pain.
Wow. It's easy, with a question like that to just throw out a response. Of course, God doesn't make mistakes. It's more important to really think through that response and answer that question, why, and what do we believe about that? And specifically, what do you do with this verse? And the idea, and every translation has it a little different. Tim, what did it say? He grieved? Is that what yours was?
Yeah, grieved. That's the NIV.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And others I know he regretted that he made the earth, and other translations have different words for that, which always leads you to believe what was the original intent and what was the meaning behind that. And so the word in Hebrew is naham, which is literally to sigh or to groan. And I remember when I saw that, I was thinking back to, one of my summer professors. I still remember a chapel he gave on Mark chapter 7, and with Jesus, he was going through Tyre and Sidon. And that was the area of the Decapolis, which, the 10 cities, which was an evil place. This is no good Jew would go there. And this is where Jesus would often, find himself and reach people there. And so the crowd had brought to him on a second journey there. He had brought this man who could hardly talk, and he was deaf, and they begged Jesus to heal him. And so Jesus took him aside from the crowd, and he spit and he touched the man's tongue. And he looked up to heaven. That would be a language that, deaf and blind people can understand. He looked up to heaven. And then he, stenazo, I still remember that word in Greek. He groaned. And that's where I think what comes out to me is our God is full of emotion. God is not just, this deity in the sky that doesn't feel. Like, God feels. And Jesus had emotion. And God had emotion here as he's looking at the world. And Tim, you get down to that verse that he looked and the whole world was evil, like all the time. Like, every decision they made was going in the wrong direction. And so no wonder, like any good parent would, then when they see their kid making really bad decisions, man, it grieves your heart. And you're just like, oh, your body just responds in that kind of way. And this is what I think, this isn't God saying, oh, I made a mistake creating the world. This is God going, man, I created the world. It was good. They took off in a different direction, and they're still going off in that different direction. And it breaks my heart. And this is, I think, if people could really understand this about God, man, it changes everything, because this is what motivated God from the very beginning in Genesis. When they first made the mistake, I'm going to send a savior into the world, and I'm going to send Jesus into the world. And this is why Jesus came and died on a cross, that we would be forgiven. because God grieves and he groans over the condition of people's heart and the direction in which they're heading, because he knows it's leading to death, and people are experiencing not life, they're experiencing death, and they're wondering what's going on. And then there's the second part of this, and I always love this too, but Tim, you do the majority of our weddings here, so I'll let you talk about the weddings between the man and do that as well.
Yeah, thanks, John. Yeah, these verses right here, I've spent a lot of time researching because I've had a lot of questions in classes about this, and people are like, what is with the Nephilim? What are the sons of God and daughters of men? And a lot of ink has been spilled over this. People have done a lot of research, and part of it is we may never know the exact details of this, kind of lost to early history, but there's a couple of places we can look to kind of get some insight. And the marriage of sons of God and daughters of men, for instance, one answer by some would say, well, these actually, the sons of God were angels that came down and had intercourse, actually, had children with the daughters of men. So while that could be a possibility, it doesn't just seem natural that would be happening for a variety of reasons. And one answer that may coincide more with the flow of the narrative, because remember, we always want to look at the Bible and say, context is king, because it is. Just like in any conversation, context is king. So what's the context around it? And if you just back up and look at chapters 4 and 5, you're going to see this. The Sethites, okay, those came from the line of Seth. Those were followers of God, okay? They were after God's heart, going after God. And then the Canaanites, right? Cain and Abel. Cain killed his brother Abel, kind of went rogue. They're not followers of God. So it could have been that the Sethites and the Cainites intermarried, and that, you see that all the way up into, Moses' time, David's time, New Testament. You have all this intermarrying like that as well. So that could be what it is. But I want to kind of go to finish off with Jet, because I heard he actually has some Nephilim living in his neighborhood.
I don't know about all that stuff, but yeah, that's an interesting passage, and I get a lot of questions about that too, Pastor Tim, but my thoughts are kind of circling back to where John was going a little bit earlier in the context of this passage of the heart of God feeling just a pain and a grief as he looked at his creation. He had created us and he said it was good, and then we fell into sin, and he was watching his creation just continue to do evil and to hurt each other, and it was just tearing his heart apart. And it's like he was looking at us and his heart was in pain, and we were just, as mankind, just going on in our blindness and not even feeling any regret at all over sin. And so it broke his heart, and that's where I think that the passage is about, his regret. And so he wasn't going to let that continue. He said, I've got to step in, and I'm going to cleanse the earth to preserve the line for the promised Messiah to come. And that was what he was doing. And so I think his heart in this story it just reveals how much he had a great plan for us. And it grieves his heart even today when we get caught up in sin and we don't feel any remorse or feel any need to amend our lives. And so he steps in and he's calling us back, and he just says, I want you to see and get a glimpse of my heart for you and my love for you, and the great steps that I took to redeem you back to myself.
Absolutely. Well, I hope this helped. If you have this question, I hope this helps you at least launch into maybe even some more, questions that you might have. And if you do have those, anybody, just make sure you type out that question to us at 833-440-0137. So thanks for being with us today. We love spending this time virtually with you, and look forward to answering some more as well.
Yeah, I'll throw one last thing. I know you already did the closing kind of thing, so this is postscript kind of thing. So if people already turned off, they're going to miss it. But the thought occurred to me, like Paul wrote, don't be unequally yoked. Don't tie yourself with an unbeliever. And I wonder if some of that doesn't come the foundation of this, because man, if you're a follower of God, you're moving in one direction. And if you're not a follower of God, you're moving in a different direction. And it's really difficult over a period of time. It might not be hard at the beginning, but man, over a period of time, when you see, ships going in different directions, that becomes really difficult. And I think this is what you see, because we value different things, and man, we're pulling in different directions. It's a difficult thing to do. And this is where, man, God's word is so much wisdom. If we're just willing to listen and be challenged by it. I'm still challenged by it. I know you guys are as well. So anyway, well, thank you guys for being here. Sorry for interrupting and making this go a few minutes longer. That just popped in my head, and I just had to throw that out. I know, Jet, you said we do a little preparation. We do very little preparation. We just like these to be more conversational, so we don't really have a script at all. We just, jot down a few thoughts and we just run with it. So I appreciate your willingness to entertain us for a little while. So keep those questions coming. We love them. God bless you.
Hey, I'm going to go outside and hunt for some Nephilim.
Good luck with that.